Welcome, everyone, to the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. Appreciate you joining me as always. We've got a busy show for you today. We're going to talk about the Washington Commanders, the NFL, and its free agency right now. So everyone's excited. Well, at least some people are excited. But we're going to talk about on today's show how there's some fans locally that aren't too excited about what Adam Peters, the GM for the Washington Commanders, has done or has not done since free agency has started. And I'm going to try to talk you off the ledge because I think the moves that Adam Peters has made have been nothing short of phenomenal. And I'll explain why. Before we get into that today, if you want to subscribe to the podcast, it's very simple. You see all the information right here on the screen. All you have to do is subscribe to the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. Rather, it's an audio on pretty much every major audio carrier, such as Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora. It's on there. And if you want to watch this, if you're watching it, what's up? All you have to do is go to YouTube and subscribe to the Lake Lewis Jr. Show on there. And the subscriptions have gone up tremendously. So I greatly appreciate all the support that I'm getting. Remember, Fridays, Fan Day. It's Friday Fan Day with you, the fan. If you want to come on the show on Friday, all you have to do is DM me on my social media at Lake Lewis Jr. on IG. Or if you want to come on the show, you can write me directly here on YouTube and let me know if you want to come on, and we'll bring you on. You know, we're having a good time with that. I've had a couple of, repeat guests coming on, and they want to keep coming on, and I'm going to keep bringing them on. So whoever wants to be added to that list so you can keep coming on as well, we'll do that. Right now, the Washington Commanders are a team that everyone knows is ascending. A lot of people like myself thinks that they are a legitimate threat for the Philadelphia Eagles. And yeah, the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. So don't get at me and tell me, oh no, you're thinking that Washington can beat them. I think the Eagles are the cream of the crop in the NFC. And then I think there's everybody else that is trying to vie for the second spot. I think Washington has just as good a chance, if you can say that, just a good of a chance to be the second best team in the NFC. Matter of fact, I think they are. And I think some of the moves that have been made by Adam Peters have been shrewd business decisions, something we haven't seen in Washington in God knows how long. And I think they've been smart business decisions, something we haven't seen in Washington in God knows how long. So for everyone that's out there right now and you're, throwing your hands up and saying you're seeing, teams that had a lot of cap money, such as the New England Patriots, going out and grabbing everyone, you do understand the difference is the New England Patriots stunk last year. No offense to anybody that's a Patriot fan, but your team was trash last year. And now with Drake May, and I think he's going to be a very good one, I think that they realize that they have an opportunity to kind of close the gap with some of the other teams in their division, such as the Miami Dolphins, such as the New York Jets. They're not closing any gap on the Buffalo Bills because the Bills are going to be winning that division for the foreseeable future as long as Josh Allen, the league MVP, is under center. But I think teams that had a lot of money that were bad, they needed to spend the money. They had to show their fan base that they mean business, that they're trying to improve. And let's face it, when you're a bad football team, you've got plenty of holes to fill. Now, the flip side is, if you're a fan of the Washington Commanders, you shouldn't be upset about what has transpired over the last day or two. And right now, as we are doing this show, there could be some other news breaking as the show's going on, and I'll try to get that to you. But for right now, I don't hear of anything else that, should be happening today at this time. I can tell you right now that Washington lost Jeremy Chin yesterday to the Raiders. Obviously, the safety had a really good year for Washington last year. He goes to the Raiders, and people are like, see, they didn't even re-sign him, and he's young. Well, they signed Will Harris today. And Will Harris, you can make an argument he's just as good as Jeremy Chin. Obviously has an opportunity to prove that maybe he can be better. But I can tell you this, he's a guy that can play true free safety for Washington. And that's something that Jeremy Chin kind of struggled with when you have to be in coverage. Jeremy Chin was a guy that would come up and hit you, but he was a guy that kind of would struggle a little bit in coverage. And I think Will Harris is a guy that may be a little better in coverage at free safety. So that's a move that Adam Peters made, signing this guy to a 2-year deal. today. Jeremy McNichol, everyone talks about how he fumbled in that NFC Championship game on the kickoff return, but they don't talk about the solid year that he had. I mean, the guy had 261 yards rushing last year, pretty much as the third option in the backfield. So they bring him back. That's a stability move right there. Obviously, the day before, they tendered Chris Rodriguez. So if you look at Washington's whole running back room, the whole running back room will be back. I do think that they are going to draft, I'm pretty certain about this, that they're going to draft a running back. I'm not saying it's going to be their 29th overall pick in the first round, but I think at some point in the second round, maybe even the third round, Washington takes a home run threat type of running back, and then you go into camp with 5 backs and you see who's going to be the odd man out. You know, it could be something where it's a cap casualty move after that. But I do think Washington drafts a back. But yes, Jeremy McNichol and Chris Rodriguez were brought back to be in the room with Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson. As far as, you know, some of the other moves that were made over the past 2 days, and you can see here on our graphic, Bobby Wagner. What can you say? It's a smart move for Washington to bring him back because he is the face of this team outside of Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels. He's the face of the team from a veteran standpoint, and I think for them to bring him back was just a brilliant move. And to me, it signals that this team feels like they're a Super Bowl or bust football team. You know, Bobby Wagner had a really strong year, went to the Pro Bowl last year, in his 14th NFL season. This guy is a guy that when you go back to when he entered the league in 2012 with the Seahawks as the 47th overall pick, he's done just about everything humanly possible, and that's why he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. So if you look at here, look at his numbers. Bobby Wagner, he's appeared in 202 games with 201 starts, and he's recorded 1,836 total tackles, 35 sacks, 99 tackles for loss, and 13 interceptions, 7 forced fumbles, and 12 fumble recoveries. He's a Super Bowl champion, did I say? Of course he is. He's a Super Bowl champion. So this is a guy why you bring him back, because he shows a young football team how you do it. He shows a young football team how you study, how you pick up really good habits to be potentially a Hall of Fame player in your own right. He was the best thing possible for Jaden Daniels. Although they play on opposite sides of the ball, Jaden Daniels got a chance to see up close and personal what a true professional, what a true elite top flight character guy is in his own locker room. And that clearly not only rubbed off on Jaden, but it rubbed off on guys like Mikey Sanverstil. It rubbed off on guys like Frankie Louvu, who are going to be long-term mainstay players on the defense. It rubbed off on guys like Johnny Newton. So I say these things because everyone's, not everyone, but a lot of you are down on Adam Peters and what he hasn't done in free agency. But you have to look at the overall big picture here. What were some of the glaring needs for this football team? I talked about when the season ended last year that I thought Brandon Coleman played admirably at left tackle. He played super strong at times, but as the season went on, you could see it started to wear on him, and he started to wear down. And it wasn't so much that he was a rookie. It was so much that from a mental standpoint, from a physical standpoint, I just think the guy was better suited to either be at right tackle or to be at guard. And obviously Adam Peters saw the same thing, because one of the other moves that Washington made that was probably the biggest one right now, to speak, it was them trading for Laramie Tunsil. And if you don't know anything about Laramie Tunsil, I know a lot of you are going to say, oh, he had 19 penalties last year. He's a false start demon. Yes, he was. But he's also perhaps the best left tackle as far as pass blocking in the NFL. He's a really good one at run blocking, so he's a top 5, top 6 caliber left tackle. But as far as a pass blocking left tackle, there's only one other guy I'm going to put ahead of him, and that's Trent Williams. So that's how good Washington is now at the left tackle position. They make a trade for this guy. They are not fleeced. They're not fleecing. It was just right for both parties. And if you're the Houston Texans, you move on from your Pro Bowl left tackle, which is kind of a surprising move considering that the Texans last year, their offensive line was their weak point. But clearly they're going to use those picks to kind of shore up some things on the offensive line in Houston. And if you're Washington, now you have the ultimate protector for your biggest investment, which is Jaden Daniels, your young quarterback. You got to keep that guy injury free, and you have to keep him upright. So I like the move quite a bit by Adam Peters. Obviously, the other move that started all of this was last week when I was in Indianapolis. It was the Commanders trading a 5th rounder for San Francisco 49er receiver Deebo Samuel. And everyone's like, Deebo Samuel, I see people saying he's washed, he's overrated. I'm here to tell you, when you have familiarity with someone, when you have someone that was part of a team bringing you on board, drafting you, developing you, getting you paid, getting you Pro Bowl status, and that person is now running another team, and he sees that you have an opportunity to help his team ascend to a Super Bowl, and you also are playing for a contract, I'm telling you, it does wonders for your psyche. It makes you want to play harder. And I'm telling you this from personal experience that whenever I've been in a situation where someone wants to offer me a lot of money because they believe that I'm something that can help elevate their brand, that makes you want to do your job. It makes you want to give them more. If you're in a relationship and the person's doing a lot for you, and I can safely say I'm in that situation myself, somebody that does so much for me, well, I like to think I matched that or exceeded on the other end by doing a lot for them. That's the way this thing works. And Adam Peters is the ultimate motivator. You look at the free agent moves that Washington made last year. Look at who they brought in and look at how each one of those guys excelled. Dante Fowler Jr., who Washington still may sign as of this show, unless he signed with someone else as of this show. I think if you look at his numbers last year, 10.5 sacks, that's from a guy that had kind of been a journeyman guy, the guy that was drafted in 2015 as the 3rd overall pick by the Jacksonville Jaguars, didn't live up to that hype. Well, last year coming back to play for Dan Quinn, who he had a lot of success with in his brief stay in Dallas, both those gentlemen, Dante Fowler Jr. had a good year, so much so that he hasn't signed yet as of this show. Remember, I keep saying that because some things may break while this show is going on. Well, he had a great year last year for Washington. And I do think there's a really good chance that they re-sign him. I know he tweeted out the other day about the disrespect and he couldn't take it anymore. Well, he's going to have to take it because no one's offering him a lot of the money maybe he or his agent think he's worth. But I think he ends up in Washington, which is the best fit for his resurrected career. But if you look at those type of moves, Frankie Louisville came over from the Carolina Panthers where he was starting to make a name for himself. He was starting to carve out his own name. But when he came to Washington, now you're talking about a Pro Bowler. He had a Pro Bowl season in his first year in Washington, and he's one of the mainstays on this defense going forward. Those are the type of guys that were brought in. Dorrance Armstrong came with Dan Quinn again, another one of his Dallas players that was in a more of a reserve role like Dante Fowler Jr. and comes to Washington and has more of a starting role, more of a centric role where he can be showcased. And he had a really strong football season last year. So again, these prove it to me type deals by Adam Peters are motivational deals. They're show me that you can be what you think you are. Bet on yourself, and we'll see what you can be together. And it paid off really well for Washington last year. So why would they not do it again this year? A Will Harris signing from the Saints. That's the type of move that we're talking about. 2-year deal for this guy. Prove it to me. Prove to me over 2 years that you can be who you think you want to be. Is it a Pro Bowl caliber safety? Is it just a good safety? Is it a guy that's collecting money? So when you give guys 1-year deals, 2-year deals, you'll find out all of the above. If they're here to steal money, they're going to steal it for 1 year, 2 years, and they're gone. And they may be out of football, or they may be toiling on someone else's team. But if you think you're going to be a really good football player, prove it to me over 1 year. Prove it to me over 2 years, and you'll get the money that you think you are worth, that you'll get the accolades that you think you deserve. I think, the acquisition of Deebo Samuel, it's perfect because he's playing for a contract. You're going to get his best behavior. You're going to get his best game on the field. And more importantly, I think the big thing here that a lot of people are forgetting is the fact that Jaden Daniels is the quarterback. No offense to Brock Purdy in San Francisco. No offense to Jimmy Garoppolo in San Francisco, because San Francisco did go to the Super Bowl. Okay? But the point is, They don't have Jaden Daniels. They don't have an elite quarterback. And Jaden Daniels, yes, we talked about this in last week's program. Yeah, is he a top five quarterback? Well, if he is or if he isn't, the bottom line is to be able to ask that question after 1 year as a rookie tells you he's an elite quarterback, okay? And for my money, yes, he is a top five quarterback. So those are the type of things that Adam Peters takes into consideration. He doesn't have to go out and swing the bat in desperation and strike out. He can take his time. He can take your best pitches. He can make sure you're putting it over the plate, because at the end of the day, Washington went to the NFC Championship game last year with a below average talent roster. And I mean that sincerely. Maybe not below average, but average, okay? To me, they had a 74 overall talent grade last year. Now, with the addition of Deebo Samuel, with the addition of Laramie Tunsil, if anything, that talent grade has moved up. If they were to start the season right now without a draft pick, without another free agent signing, I'd have their talent grade right now to 79. Okay? I'd have it at a 79. That's 5 points better than last year. Okay. Now we know what they're going to do in the draft. We know they're going to come away with probably a defensive lineman. They're going to come away with a corner. They're going to come away with a wide receiver, and they probably are going to come away with the running back, as I stated earlier. So that's where you look at Adam Peters and you trust what he's doing, him and Dan Quinn, as far as running the organization, evaluating the proper talent base to bring on and do well with it. So for me, when this season starts, I have Washington's talent grade based off of what I'm thinking will happen in the draft and what they've done so far in free agency, and they're not done. There's still some other guys out there. Now, if they go out and swing the bat and hit a home run and bring in a Trey Hendrickson from Cincinnati, then okay. Now we're talking about a talent grade that's jumped all the way up now to an 86, 87, okay? And now you're closing that gap against a 96 graded Eagles team from last year that, because of some of their departures, because of their success, they've lost some players. They brought in a couple, but they've lost some. So to me, now their talent grade is dipped. Their talent grade now is a 92, 93, okay? So if you're Washington, you can really close the gap on the Eagles with what you're doing. So I think fans have to understand also, when you sign players to 1 year deals, 2 year deals, you aren't in the situation to just go out and throw money around. You know, you have to be smart about that. And keep in mind, yeah, you may have had a lot of salary cap money, but you still have to fill the roster. You know, they didn't have a lot of guys because of those 1 year deals that walked, those 2 year deals that, you know, were coming due after the end of this year. So they still have to keep some money to sign their own guys. They still have to keep money to sign their rookie class when they draft them. So it's not like, you know, the $70 million or so, $56 million, I think is the actual number that Washington had to spend. That was to go out and get other free agents. No, that's not the case. It was to literally fill a roster, take care of your own, at least the players you wanted to bring back, and then go out and get some guys that you felt like fit the culture. And one thing I can say about the signings, the guys that they brought in, they're dogs. They're tenacious football players. They're guys that don't give an inch on the field, and they're nice guys off the field. And I think that that's important for what Washington has already built, and they want to sustain that. They want to sustain a strong culture. They want that locker room to still have the same vibe year in and year out. And that's, we're playing for each other. You're playing to the man to your left, to your right. You're not coming in here being a diva, thinking about yourself, because as Terry McLaurin himself said it, the face of the Commanders, he said it himself. He said it's a non-negotiable. You have to fit into the culture that they have implemented and put in play since Dan Quinn and since Adam Peters has been in play, okay? So for me, wanted to come on and let you guys know so far that these moves have been really smart. Overall, to re-sign a Zach Ertz, your tight end, that's big. That's big for Jaden, because clearly that was his security blanket, and they had a nice nucleus, a nice rapport with each other. That's big. I thought it was big for them to re-sign Zane Gonzalez, their kicker. Zane Gonzalez obviously had the doink against Tampa that, springboarded them on to the NFC divisional game against Detroit, where they won that game. Well, Zane Gonzalez, I thought, came in and filled in really well for Austin Seibert. I thought, when Seibert got injured, it was kind of like, what are they going to do? They went out and brought in another kicker, and it didn't work out. Okay. So with that said, I thought Zane Gonzalez brought in a level of stability at that field goal kicker position. For them to re-sign Tress Way, that was a no-brainer. He's probably the most popular player outside of Jaden and Terry on the roster. And he's a longtime fan favorite. He's one of our favorites in the media, just a class act guy, just phenomenal human being. So for Washington, again, culture. They're going to bring him back. And let's be honest, whether you think Tress is old in the tooth or whatever, he didn't kick that much last year because the offense was humming along. And I think with the acquisitions of Laramie Tunsil and Deebo Samuel and some more players that are going to come via free agency, because I do think Michael Gallup may end up in Washington. Is that an upgrade over De'Ami Brown? We don't know yet. But I do think the guys like, Olamide Zaccheaus, as well as Noah Brown, I think they probably will be brought back. So it looks like it's a run it back tour going on for Washington with a couple new sprinkles in to enhance the product. And I think that those maneuvers by Adam Peters should keep you not worried, folks. Don't think, years past, big spending sprees for big household names. A lot of these guys were washed up players and came here with mask on and played and took money. Well, that's not the case now. It's going to be shrewd business decisions, hence why John Allen was let go, hence why De'Ami Brown was allowed to leave, hence why Jeremy Chin was allowed to leave. So if I'm a guy like Daron Payne, my head's on a swivel. Because if I don't produce, I'm not going to be here next year. I still think there's a chance he could get moved this offseason, in a trade package. So that's just me. No one's told me that. No one in the building has told me that. I have great relationships with folks in the building, but no one told me that. So don't throw that out there and say, Lake was told this. No one told me that. That's just my own inkling. Okay. So this was good. I just wanted to come on for about 20 minutes or so. I think, we've gone on for over 22, 23 minutes and just put that out there. Relax. It's early. There's the whole, everything will be announced tomorrow on Wednesday, who's going where. Everything becomes official because it's the start of the league year. So tomorrow, lots of good stuff that'll be going on. So remember, we're going to give you all this information as it comes to light. As I hear things, as I know things that are happening, it'll be here on the pod. So all you got to do is subscribe to it. Once again, if you see that red subscribe button in the bottom corner on the screen, hit that because it means you haven't subscribed to the show. Shame on you. Shame on you. However, if you have subscribed, which most of you have, and I greatly appreciate your support, that button's not on there. So that's why you don't see it. So anyway, subscribe to the Lake Lewis Jr. Show here on YouTube or on any audio carrier. If you're listening to it, I greatly appreciate your support, your continued support. It's exciting times if you're a Commanders fan. It really is. Lots of big moves being made to keep this team where they were last year, NFC Championship at worst. But I think most people want to see them close the gap with the Eagles, and I think some of these moves clearly have closed the gap, contrary to what some of my colleagues think, but contrary to what some of the national media think. I think Washington's closed the gap against the Eagles, and by the Eagles losing some players, their overall talent grade has dipped just a tad. Not a lot. They're still the best team in the NFC, as I said earlier, but I think Washington's ascending, and I think Washington's the Eagles' true threat. I think Washington's the Eagles' true rival over the next, several years because of Jaden Daniels, because of Terry McLaurin, and I think the Eagles know that. Like I said, in that NFC Championship game and when I was in Philadelphia, a lot of their fans were telling me that they're looking forward to this rivalry building itself up. So there's a mutual respect for both organizations. Washington has work cut out to close the gap, though. They really do. But I think they're off to a good start with the start of free agency. So, my friends, I appreciate you joining me. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. And then, of course, Friday, Fan Day. If you want to come on, all you have to do is DM me on Lake Lewis Jr. on my social media or right here on YouTube in the comment section. All you have to do is just let me know if you want to come on Friday. We'll be doing it at 5 o'clock sharp. So if you Eastern time, of course. So if you want to do it, just let me know. Appreciate you, my friends. Have a good one. Take care.